Hello, thanks for watching. Today we're working on the logical functions in Excel. So the if function in Excel, or the and function, or the or function, all these are in this video today. Hello, my name is Jeff from Finally Learn, where I help you finally learn financial literacy like Excel. So the if function is an old function where you have a logical test, and then what happens if it's true, what happens if it's false. Now the true can be a calculation, could be a formula, it could be a value. False could be a value or a formula. So that is helpful. Now sometimes you have to ask more than one question. Are you a freshman or are you a sophomore? And so they have several questions that it would ask of the data, and then you finally get to maybe 3 or 4 choices. So that is called a nested if function. So sometimes in the false situation, they would have another if function. So if it's not true, then it's false, we ask another question. So that is a nested if. The and function, all the arguments must be true before you say true. And the or function, any one argument must be true, and then it returns true. Now here's 2 that we're not using in this video. We've got another video to show where we do the if-s function. So the if-s function is you can ask more than one question. That is a fairly new Excel function, Excel 2019. And so the if-s has multiple logic tests. And so you might say, is someone a history major and a sophomore? Well, that would work then as the if-s rather than a nested if up here. The not function it just changes true to false and false to true. Sometimes people use the not function just to get to a certain sign that they want. All right, so I'm going to do a simple example. I'll have if and using the and function and the or function and then multiple and things like that. So just real simple examples as we get started. So this first one is we're going to use an if function when there's one logical test, and we have students and we have credits, and we're going to do it 2 different ways. Now I'm showing over here the formula text. This function is called formula text. So that way is an easy way to see what's in this column, the first cell. So let's say that we're at a university, at a college, the senior class standing requires 90 credit hours or more, or 90 credits or more. So we're going to go back and look at these students. We know these students, and we have credits. So one thing we can do is a simple little formula. We can point to the 96, so equals B7, and we can put greater than or equal to. So it's the greater than symbol and the equal to symbol functions combines as a greater than or equal to symbol. We're going to point to the 90, and the 90 needs to be absolute value, so it needs to be $B, $3, so it's an absolute address. So is this person a senior? It's going to show true and false. So Maya Carter is a senior, Jose Milton is a senior, and John Smith is a senior. The other students are really close, but not seniors. Now, you can always do a formula, and that's how the formula works. Now we're going to do an if statement. So let's do a simple little if statement. I'm going to the top where the function is, the fx. So I'm going to search for if in the formula builder. So the if, I need a logical test. A logical test is going to be the same thing, the 96 greater than or equals to, and I'm pointing to the B7. Then I'm going to point to the 90 and make it an absolute address with $signs. Now the value, what do we do if it's true? Then I'm going to type in senior. So I'll type in senior, and if they're not a senior, then we might just type in no. How about that? So now you see when I type it in here, it knows it's a label, so it puts a double quote and double quote in front of the senior and the no. So is Maya Carter a senior? Yes. And then we can copy this down. Senior, senior, no, no, senior, no. So you can do it however you want to. You could say no, or you could say, you can leave it blank. If you want to leave it blank, you put double quotes, and that will leave it blank when there's somebody's not a senior. That might be an easy way to see. So you can see it's really nicely done where it just pulls out the 3 seniors. Real easy to see the 3 seniors. I'm going to go back and put that where it says senior or no. They're not a member of the senior class, or they are a senior. So that is, here's our formula. We're looking at one if statement. All right, the next one down, what if we have an if function and an and function? So that means there's 2 logical tests. We're going to say senior class is 90 credits or more, and the gen ed is 27 or more. And so here we're going to have Maya has 96 credits and gen ed is 27. So let's build it this way, and we're going to do the and. So what I'd recommend, this is going to be a function. In fact, let me show you this. This is a long function. It looks intimidating, but what we're going to do is an and function. Both have to be true, then it's true, and then we'll give some language on the true and the false. So let's get started with this. Let me delete this, and then we'll go for Maya Carter. All right, so we're going to do the and function first. The and, we're going to do the 96 is greater than or equal to the 90. That's part of it. Make that absolute address. And the logical test number 2 is the 27 greater than or equal to that 27, the gen ed. We need to anchor that, so we make it absolute. So let's just hit finish and done here. So we could have true, false, true, false. So true, Maya Carter has gen ed hours and senior class standing. Jose Milton has senior class standing but not gen ed hours, so that's false. So we have true if both are true, false if only if both of them are not true. 1 could be true or 0 could be true, and it's still going to show false. So we're going to take this and wrap this in an if statement. So I'm going to start in between the equals and the and. I'll put if, start my parentheses. I want to make this entire and function my logical test, so I'll put a comma. Do you see that now becomes my logical test? And what do I do if it's true? We could say something like senior and gen ed. So senior and gen ed. And then if they're not, then what do? Say no, that's fine. So senior and gen ed. And let's copy this down. So no, no, no. Why is Jose Milton? Jose only has 90 hours, but not the 27 hours of general education. The John Smith is a senior with gen ed because 27 and 122 both meet or exceed those 2 standards. So that is an and function. You can do 2 things at once. There's 2 logical functions here. So here's what it looks like. You saw how we built it. It looks complex at first. Now, I would build it from the start with the and. I would not type in and, start the parentheses, and just type it all the way through, because you're likely to make a mistake, and then you don't have a way to edit it and solve your error, kind of debug the problem. All right, the next one down. What if either or works? So are they either a senior of 90 or gen ed of 27 or more? Okay, so here's how it works. Same kind of problem. So let's get rid of this, and we'll do, I called it progress or deficient. We can call it something else. The way what I called it doesn't really matter so much. We're going to do or, and the logical test is going to be 96 is greater than or equal to the 90, and make it absolute. And then the second logical test is the 27 greater than or equal to the 27 here, make it absolute. And so or is going to be a different thing than and. So does it meet at least 1? Well, yes, this meets both, so it's true. Jose Milton doesn't meet gen ed, but meets the senior, so yes, it's true. And then false, false, true. So we have 87 and 15 does not meet either one. All right, so let's change this. We're going to wrap this in an if statement. So if, that whole thing becomes our logical test, and then comma, and then the value, if it's true, I did something like, we made a progress. So I'm going to say yes and then no, just make it real easy. You can call it, I called it progress or deficient or whatever. And then we can copy this down. We can see if somebody has a senior status or gen ed. 4 of them do, 2 of them have neither. All right, number 4 is, let's say we add one more thing. Have they declared their major? And so declared the major is either yes or no, or true or false or whatever. Now here, if we use true, then that's already a logic. True or false is the logic already. So we just have to put this in. So here's what we have. And I use complete and incomplete rather than yes or no or whatever. So let's go through here. So senior class of 90 or higher, gen ed of 27 or higher, and then major declaration, we want it to be true. So we're going to say, is this person complete on credits and gen ed, and they've declared a major? So that's complete or incomplete. All right, so let's do, we're going to do an and function. So let's search for and. The first and is going to be 96. It's going to be greater than or equal to the 90. Make it an absolute address. The logic 2 is going to be 27 is greater than or equal to the 27 up here. Make it absolute. And then we need a third logic. And because it's already true or false, we can just point to it. We don't have to say, does it equal false? Does it equal true? Does it equal yes or no or whatever? That's already, do you see this false right here already comes through as false. So we can copy this down and we can see who meets this requirement. Only John Smith has enough senior hours, total hours to be a senior, gen ed hours, and major declaration. Now watch, Maya Carter has 2 of the 3, has the credits and the gen ed, but not the major declaration. So it's going to be false. So the only one that works is going to be John Smith in this one. So we're going to wrap this in an if function. So if, start my parentheses. So all this becomes the logic test. And so the value, if it's true, we would say, I'm going to use the word complete. And then the next one will say not complete. How about that? So complete and then not complete. And we can copy that down. So everyone is going to be not complete except for John Smith. So you can see how this formula looks like it's pretty intimidating, but I did an and. We have 1, 2, 3 things we have to all be true, and then we'll say it's complete. If it's not, we say not complete. I think I used the word incomplete earlier, but this is easy. You can see the difference, which ones are complete, which ones are not complete. All right, number 5. Let's do number 5, where we have an or and an if, and we'll do another logical test. Doesn't meet any criteria. Okay, so we're looking at the same kind of criteria that we had before, but we're going to use or. It doesn't meet anything, so it's the same that we had above, basically. 2 people don't meet any criteria. All right, so let's get started. We're going to do an or. We're going to do all 3, and then we'll show you how this works. So let me get rid of all this one. So we'll do an or function. 96 greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and we'll point to the 90, which is going to be an absolute. The next one is going to be the 27 greater than or equal to that gen ed 27. Then our last one, we're just going to point to the major declaration in the wrong place here. Point to logical number 3, the major declaration. So remember, if we use or, then anyone can be true. So Maya Carter has 2 of the 3, has the credits and the gen ed, but not the major declaration. Jose Milton has 1, 2 of the 3, so it's true. Han Rice has all three do not pass the test. Maria, all three do not pass the test. Look at Ian. Ian has gen ed and the major declaration, so that's going to be true. So now we have this OR function that if any one is true, then it returns true. So now we're going to wrap it in an if statement. So if statement, now watch on this one, we're asking the question, what if none of them are true? So if it's true, we're going to leave it blank. So I'll do double quotes, comma. If it's false, we would say something like none, like no test passed or whatever. So this first one is blank because Maya passed the credits test and the gen ed test, so that would be true. And because the true, we're leaving it blank, then it's going to be blank. We're not worried about the people who've made it. We're looking at, can we find the people that have not passed any test? So Han and Maria have no test passed. We can say none here. We could call it something else like, no test passed or whatever, none. And so we can highlight those two, say, okay, we need to talk to Han and Maria and make sure that they stay on track, that we meet some requirements along the way. So that's the ones we need to work on, not the ones that have completed, at least one of the three. The last one is going to be an if function with and or. So here's the logic that we're going to have. We want somebody that's in the senior class, or they have completed the gen ed requirements, and they need a 3.7 or higher GPA. Okay, so we're going to start with an or with the first two, and then we'll put in the and, the GPA requirement, and then we'll wrap it in an if, and we'll say these people are people that are eligible for honors. Okay, I just made this up. Makes sense, I think, so let's see what we can do. So we'll start with the or, and then wrap it in and then wrap it in an if. So a little more complex. So we're going to start with an or function, and I'm going to show the formula builder here. So we're going to say, okay, 96 has to be greater than or equal to the 90, and make that absolute. And then our next logical test is the gen ed has to be greater than or equals to the 27, make that absolute. All right, so we have our first thing that's going. So here's what happens. We have to meet either senior or gen ed. So 2 people make it, 2 people do not, 2 people make it. Okay? Now we're going to wrap this or into an and. So and is going to include the GPA requirement greater than or equal to the 3.7. Make that absolute. And then comma, the next one is going to be our or. So I've got 2 logical things in the and. I've got logical 1, which is the GPA requirement, and then it has to meet one of the 2 in the or. So let's go and then close that parentheses for the and. So now what we have, so why does Maya Carter not make it? She has credits of 96, she has gen ed of 27, but she does not have the 3.7 GPA, so that's false. Now, Jose Milton does pass because we have a GPA of 3.7 and at least 1, so he's a senior, does not have the gen ed hours, but it's true because he has GPA and 1 of the other 2. All right, so now we're going to wrap this in an if statement and say if all that becomes our logical test, the and the or is our logical test, and do a comma. The value, if it's true, we'll say something like honors or eligible or whatever, or they're eligible. And we can leave the other one blank. We don't need to highlight the ones that don't make it. We can hit done here. Then we should be able to copy it all the way down. And the people that are eligible for honors. Remember Jose Milton. Let's look at Ian. 3.7 makes it for GPA. Needs one of these two. Gen Ed requirement makes it, even though he's not a senior. All right, so that's how you do basic logic with if, and or. You get a lot of things done with that on Excel. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.